Hello, welcome. We've got everyone coming in here. We've got all of our participants, and I want to do my bird bath introduction. Welcome back. It's great to see everybody. I am so excited for the week or for the conversations that we actually have today. We've got an incredible panel to discuss the cool things going on in AI, as well as giving you a little bit of a sneak peek of what you're going to be experiencing if you're joining us next week. We're 1 week away, a little over a week away, from being in Kansas City for the Veterinary Innovation Summit. Always an incredible event. And I just wanted to jump in and introduce who we have with us. Our first participant, our first guest is Dr. Jennifer Welser. I always want to switch the S and the L on you for some reason. I don't know. But Dr. Welser is the chair of the Veterinary Innovation Council, which is the team that puts on Veterinary Innovation Summit. She's also the president of Arista Advanced Pet Care. She's the chief strategy officer at CityVet. She's a new Dallas local resident like myself. So welcome. And Dr. Welser, I'll hand it to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Is this also when I get to do a shameless plug for Veterinary Innovation Summit?
This is not even your full shameless plug. This is just shameless plug about you. Maybe.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for having me. So I'm an ophthalmologist by training, and like Ryan said, I'm currently the chief strategy officer for CityVet, which is a shared ownership general practice model. And we just announced that we've launched Arista Advanced Pet Care, and I'm the president of that. It's a shared ownership model for specialty and emergency. And this year, I'm honored to be the chair of the Veterinary Innovation Council.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you, and we're going to get more into the VIS with you as we go through this as well. I know Dr. Weissman's having a few little technical issues, so I'm going to jump forward and then come back. But the next person that we have with us is Yanik Bloom. Yanik is the CEO and co-founder of Covet. Yanik was previously a software engineer at Apple, pioneering a bunch of their AI innovations, and he is who I am going to lean on today as my technical brain power. So Yanik, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Thanks, Ryan. Yes, so I'm Yanik Bloom. Happy to be here. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Covet, where we're building an AI co-pilot for veterinarians. As Ryan mentioned, my background is technical. I studied computer science back in Switzerland, where I'm from, and at Carnegie Mellon University here in Pittsburgh. And I then worked at Apple as a senior engineer for 5 years, working on productivity apps and how to bring AI into them to make them better and more efficient for consumers. Switched full-time to Covet earlier this year. Super excited to be in this very exciting space, and very happy to be here today.
Well, we're happy to have you in the vet industry. Only the patients bite, but the people don't, so you're good. And then next, we've got Susan Gronveld. And Susan, I know I butchered your last name, but we're going to roll with it. Susan has been somebody that I've gotten to know over the last few years and always really enjoy hearing from. And Susan's the founder of Sylvester AI. She's an entrepreneur with 20 years of experience in pet care. Susan, I won't do you full justice, but why don't you give people a little introduction as well?
Aren't you? You're so kind, Ryan. My background actually, I live on a ranch actually just outside of Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. And have a science degree in agriculture. And early in my career, I was working with multinationals, helping bring pharmaceuticals to clinics. And along that journey, came to understand how much more we needed to do for cats so that they could have the same level of care as dogs. And that started me on a journey actually to do more for the species. And that's how we started Sylvester. Sylvester takes the pain scales that veterinarians are already using that are visual, and we've applied AI to those pain scales, and we're actually commercializing that now with pet owners and through clinics globally with patent pending in certain regions. So we're really excited and super excited for what we're doing for this species and the potential of AI for all species. So really happy to be here today.
Awesome. Well, Susan, we're happy to have you. And I have a late entrant. I feel like we're going off of our Olympic skills. One of our entrants got DQ'd. His brother is stepping in. We've got not doctor, but we've got another incredible Weissman. We've got Allan Weissman. Allan is the co-founder of Rimal as well. We may have Andrew pop in as well to give us some of the medical background, but Jen, I'm going to call on you now a little bit more. But Allan, why don't you give us a little bit of just a history of yourself and what Rimal does? Oh, you are muted. Or maybe we didn't even turn on your mic. We're going to figure out the technical stuff with Allan. But while we do that, I'm going to move forward. Allan will pop in here, and Andrew will probably pop in as well with some awesome things about Rimal. Oh, there you go. You're in.
Oh, great. Well, great to be here. Glad we got that all worked out. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Allan Weissman. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rimal. And we started a few years ago now, Dr. Weissman and I. Oh, wonderful. Great. Everybody's here. Anyway, there was just this one sort of now legendary Friday where I was working all day in Brooklyn. Dr. Weissman is at Red Bank Hospital in New Jersey. And so to keep in touch, we used to always, get together and have dinner. So after this long day of working at a startup doing some AI stuff, I hit a bunch of traffic and I got into Andrew's house and I said, Andrew, come on, we've got to go to dinner right now. I'm so hungry. And anyway, he said, I can't go with you right now. I have too many patients. And I said, what are you talking about? And anyway, I saw the software that they were giving Andrew to work with. I couldn't believe how much it resembled Windows 95 at the time. And so anyway, we got to work on Rimal, which is now a full-featured radiology and now specialty medicine platform and community of specialists serving hundreds of different practices and thousands of patients every month.
Fantastic. Well, and Andrew, I'm going to let Allan be the one that did all of your introduction, but you are going to be called on many times to give us the medical insights here. So I hope you studied. But what I want to do, two things, just housekeeping. Anyone that has questions, we're going to be monitoring the chat. So you feel free to hop in, type in your questions. We're going to go get to them at the end. And if some of them are right on topic or something we're hitting on, I'll pull those in as well and keep our panel on their toes. But what I want to do first is toss it over to Jen. And we are looking at this as sort of the pre-show, the kickoff to Veterinary Innovation Summit, which is coming for us next week. And what was it about AI and the things that are happening in AI that really excited Vic and made it sort of that superstar of what we're going to be talking about next week?
Yep, for sure. So Vic, in general, we kind of try to focus on one big area for a period of time. And AI is definitely a big area. It kind of seems like something we certainly should focus on other than, it's here. So on the one hand, it doesn't seem so innovative, but it's such a big topic. And what we try to do is figure out, okay, where are there potentially gaps in the understanding? How do we keep a conversation moving forward? So over the course of board meetings, and then we had some virtual breakout groups to try to refine where do we really want to sort of dig in on AI. We held at AVMA not so long ago. A few of you were there. It was over 50 people attended from very different parts of the industry. We held a session and we posed the question. We made it a much smaller question to say, what would it take to build trust and then therefore allow for the implementation of AI tools in veterinary practices? And so that's, a specific piece of a very, very big topic. And so that was part of the reason we took it on, because we felt like everyone says, oh, AI, it's great. We make assumptions that everyone's comfortable or it's going to be entering our industry in great, productive, safe ways, but we can't really assume that. I feel like we wanted to really make sure that we're driving this into the industry in really good, responsible ways and helping all of the people, for example, on this call that are working so hard in this space to be successful.
Yeah, well, that's going to be great. I know it's going to be an interesting topic, and it sort of segues us directly into what we're going to talk about today. I want to give a little bit of a plug to everyone that's participating with us. Everyone, at least every one of the businesses and the people as well, are going to be there next week and making sure that there's opportunities to speak to them. So throughout the session, you're going to see QR codes pop up on your screen. So scan those. There's one right now for you. Feel free to scan those. if you haven't registered for the Veterinary Innovation Summit, do so now. You've still got time. It's a super busy week in Kansas City, but you've got this awesome window to be able to fit in there and see what's going to really happen. It's one of those events that I always find wildly valuable. So, but I'm going to jump into it. Enough Ryan chit chat, right? So let's talk about AI. Let's talk about AI applications. There's tasks that AI can automate and augment, and places where it can be used, places where it shouldn't be used. And I'm curious for you, Yanik, as our technologist here, coming from the space, what people or who that's listening to this should just log off and go back and enjoy a long lunch? Who is not going to get anything from learning about AI?
Well, I think anyone maybe who doesn't use a computer, or if their clinics don't use a computer or no internet, maybe those people should probably log off. But I think anyone else is going to be getting a lot of value out of this, because it's going to impact everybody's lives over the next years. So I think it's important to know and understand what is happening and how it can serve you best.
So should people be? I mean, I was playing on ChatGPT yesterday for a project I was working on. Is it something that you think people should be initially have some trepidation about, or is this something where it's like, you know what, let's go into this with eyes wide open?
Yeah, I think no one should be scared of it. I think it's important to obviously come in with an open mind, understand some of the risks and some of the rewards. Not everything is perfect. It's very early stages in this technology, but I think the key thing is that it has the potential to help everybody in some way. The goal here is not to replace entire people, replace jobs, get rid of people. The goal here is to enhance the way that people are able to work, get rid of tasks that can be automated, and actually make people's jobs better and more enjoyable in that way. So I think everybody should come at it with an open mind. Some apprehension in where it should be used and how it should be used, I think, is important, but definitely don't come at it with fear, because I don't think that's going to serve a good purpose to you or the people that you're trying to lead.
Yeah. So if I throw it here to Dr. Weissman, Andrew, if we've got a lot of people that work in the technology sector. We've got people from, the C-suite of groups. What was it that made you say, okay, I don't know which one of you is older, but either big brother or little brother?
Thank you.
I'll try this. I'm going to go into this technology world with you. You're a fantastic radiologist at a very well-respected practice, but what was the catalyst for you to say, okay, cool, like let's actually go into some AI radiology and start implementing that?
There's just too many patients that need care. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that AI can automate, whether that's helping the general practitioner, get their radiograph interpretation more quickly, whether it's helping the general practitioner decide, does this case need to be statted to a radiologist? Does this case need the attention of a radiologist? At Rimal, we use AI to assign risk assessments. So if the patient has, let's say, fluid in its chest, that'll come back as high risk. And so the general practitioner can take what they already know, take the benefit of having AI that's already screened their radiographs, and then stat that case out to a radiologist. As Yanik mentioned, we're not here to replace the radiologist. Rimal is here to assist the practitioner and the radiologist both in helping get that patient more immediate care. And so I think, when it comes to AI, it is a new space, but it's something that there's so many parts of radiology and veterinary medicine in general where AI can take care of a lot of the minimal tasks that don't require our attention. For instance, as a radiologist, if I never have to rotate an image again, or if I never need to read a normal thorax again because the AI is able to identify those cases, that's more time that I can spend with the critical patients. With Rimal, you can have radiographs and then immediately request an internal medicine consultation. So that's hours that me or my staff just saved from having to identify who's an internal medicine specialist in my area. What are their wait times? Like, how can I get an appointment? Having AI is really just so beneficial to having higher throughput, better patient care, better patient management. And I think, as the years pass, we're just going to see AI improve and expand into more and more places so that hopefully patient care continues to improve.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. There's a really wonderful speaker and professor and educator in mind, Dr. Parminder Basran out of Cornell. And Parminder, I give him a lot of credit for kind of giving me a trial by fire. We were on a panel talking about AI as I was still learning about it, and I think I went head to head with Muhammad Ali right off the bat with one of the biggest people there is, and he was spectacular. And he just said, anything that your brain doesn't need to think about, anything mundane, let AI do it. He said, start there. Just try that, see where it can go, and then go from that. And, he then took us through the depths of a lot of the things that Radimal's been tackling as well to understand, the nuances of image recognition. So that was very, very neat there. And so another person that has a lot of experience in image recognition is Susan. Susan, you not only have a spectacular app, but as you mentioned, you guys are leveraging this and bringing it more into the practices as well. Mm-hmm. What do you think was the piece or sort of that way that you found that you cracked through the noise of a lot of apps that are out there and actually got a lot of actually pet parents and owners to actually download an app, utilize it, trust it, engage with it, and now leveraging that into practices?
Yeah, I think, just to take a step back, just to launch off of, Andrew's comments, AI has the potential to change everybody's lives, and it's doing it in the back. So I go back to the time, you remember when Microsoft and Apple first came? And, we had computer power for a long, long time, but there was something revolutionary that happened when Apple came to town. And it wasn't because Apple was smarter, right, than its competitor. It was because it was easier to use. And so if you think about the radical shift that we're seeing in AI, it's because we're meeting people where they need to be met. So for people that are listening to this, you actually don't have to learn a lot about AI to use it. This isn't actually, it's going to come to you. And this is part of our story, this is what the expectation is now that we have everything at our fingertips. Now that we are much more collaborative in our practices, we know that the pet owner needs to be a part of the journey for their beloved. That there isn't a hierarchy now in terms of who can problem solve. And so that's what AI is bringing. And so our experience was solving a need, an unmet need for cat owners in particular, because they're hiding their pain from the cat owner. Now, every cat owner that I've met has said that they know their cat better than anybody, better than their vet. And so I think that's the real thing that we're trying to nuance here, is make it this more about a species-centric approach. And so we started with the cat owner demonstrating that there's a real unmet need because they want to know what their animal is thinking or feeling. And then we happened to know that there was validated pain scales that veterinarians were already using. And so we applied AI and machine learning to try to be as smart as the veterinarian. Now, if you take 5 veterinarians in a room, there's going to be 5 different biases to a subjective scale. So inherently, by having a computer do the learning on it, we're going to have 1 bias instead of 5. So we've already made a visual assessment more accurate. And that's why we see in the what Radimal's doing as well, like there's more accuracy just because we're taking inherent bias out of the system. So I think, you don't have to really own AI and be an expert in AI. Like maybe we used to have to think about computers and how to use the tech. It's just going to show up for you. And that's really what we learned from pet owners, is they demand it, especially as we talk about millennial and Gen X, the largest populations. It better show up on the phone. And if it doesn't show up on the phone, there's going to be a problem. And so we're just trying to make sure that system of approach and the care for that cat is end to end. So it's not linear now, it's in a circle, right? So we're now in a flywheel of care over the lifetime of the animal. And that's really what AI is doing and the pet owners driving.
I'm curious. So you brought up an interesting point here, and it's something that as I've been exploring more with AI with a lot of the people that are here and a lot of other people in the space. Are you finding that people are wanting to know more about how it works than they do with any other technology that we've seen before?
Not really.
No? Okay. Good.
Here's the trick of this, right? Like when we're thinking from a clinic point of view, so when we talk about clinicians, for sure, obviously, right? We want to know the science. We know that this is validated. We want to know that this is accurate to the scales. But the end user wants to know if their cat is in pain or no pain, or we call it happy or unhappy. And so they're not questioning because it's coming up on the phone. So the pet owner's not questioning that. They are looking for guidance. And that's why we said, you know what, we don't want this just to be a pet owner tool. We want to make sure that we go all the way through with the quality of care for the cat. And so clinicians want to know how it works. And clinicians by nature are diagnostic. And so we want to understand all the holes and the potential and the problems. And I think that that is a incredibly valuable, important role that clinicians bring to AI that we need a ton of. So the rigor and the regulation, I'm a big fan of that. We need bumper pads, but the actual users, the end users that this is intended for, they'll actually validate whether their cat is in pain or not anyways. And they're doing that already in the clinic. So when a clinician's having a technician or a vet is having that conversation, how many times have you tried to convert to a solution for that pet and the pet owner is not agreeing? So we become that stepping stone to say, well, look, at your phone is telling you what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then maybe I should do that.
Okay. That's interesting. And that actually, I was going to tee up another question, but you actually moved me into the next spot. So maybe you got my notes. But what's kind of interesting is how AI, I think, and my goal in this, and everyone has an objective or a goal in what they're doing, right? This isn't purely altruistic, despite the fact that I like to talk. But I would love to see more people utilizing AI in practices.
Sure.
I don't think that they need to, the thing I always joke people, I say, you're not going to hand the robot a scalpel, right? But there's a lot of other things that you can be doing. So Yanik, when I come to thinking about Covet and the AI scribing tools that are on the market and the way that Covet really engages with people, how do you think that AI in your specific instance really increases the ability for people to work at the highest level, or how can it work within the practice in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think our goal really here is to help veterinarians see more patients and enjoy their care more, being able to provide better care, and we're helping them achieve that by saving time during the day. No veterinarian likes to write records. They spend a lot of time doing this on a daily basis. Using our technology, they can cut time that they usually spent on that to see more patients, get home on time, and so that's one aspect of it. But AI has a lot of second order effects too. By using technology like ours to, for instance, automate medical record note taking, it also means that during the consultations, they don't need to be thinking about the notes they need to take. They can actually be way more present, in the moment. They can provide better care by doing so because they can go and, touch the animal. They can go in and be really present there instead of being behind their computer, behind a screen. And so I think that's where AI can have a huge impact is there's the first order effects of what does it automate, but there's also the second order effects of all the little things that you previously had to do. So I think for us, really, it enables our customers, our veterinarians, to not only save time, but also enjoy their care more, provide better care. And so ultimately, everybody wins there. The whole practice wins, the end users win. And so I think that's where AI is so beautiful in being able to provide that kind of throughput at all the different levels.
So you mentioned the whole practice, right? And I think a lot of times when we are doing conversations around what's happening in a vet clinic, we're thinking of, Andrew and Jen, right? We're thinking of the doctors that are in there doing those things. But I know there's been a lot of people, and I, for one, am a big proponent of this as well, but increasing the utilization of technicians in the clinics at multiple levels, whether it's I think of Richard Goldstein, who's the chief medical officer, chief veterinary officer at Zoetis, said he talks to practice or to technicians, and he says, "How many of you went to school to follow a doctor around and take notes?" No one raises their hand and goes, "Well, I've got some really bad news for you." But what COVID's doing and all of these solutions, right? We're trying to bring people out of having to sit behind that computer, or where do you see this participating, not just in the vet's pocket, but in the entire practice?
Yeah, the beautiful thing with this is, as you're mentioning, it's veterinarians, it's technicians, it's even front end desk people, receptionists. COVID can be used to generate discharge forms. People use it to maybe write follow up emails that they need to send through to the client after a consultation. And so it's every single person, everybody. If you think about your daily job, everybody's spending time doing things where you think in the back of your mind, I shouldn't have to be spending this much time doing this, right? Like, this is not a difficult task, and that's not only for kind of the more complicated medical tasks. That's for a lot of the different tasks, and admin tasks are what take most time, in a clinic if you aggregate it on a daily basis. And so we think there's an impact there for everybody to be actually spending time on the things that they qualify for best, the things that they actually enjoy. Someone who came into a receptionist desk, they enjoy speaking to people. They enjoy that interaction to have with people. And that's what they want to be doing. They don't want to be, aggregating these different notes and having to make photocopies and sending them over. So I think it's really distilling someone's job to, the identity, what they actually like doing, cutting off the boring tasks and allow them to really be the person and the job that they want to be. So the impact there is on the whole clinic.
Awesome. Well, so Andrew, what are you seeing in a tangible way within the clinic? Are you seeing a more perhaps democratization of the information that's existing in the clinic, right? Like, I've seen a Radimal specialist report and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of understand what I'm looking at, versus like the old days, the X-ray would pop up on the wall and you go, I don't know what that is. So is there more democratization of the information? Are technicians feeling more engaged in that? Where does the AI radiology component fit into that?
You're exactly right. With using AI, we're able to kind of change the care strictly from the doctor to the whole team and have a whole team approach. So to kind of fill in the dots of what you were describing, the Radimal reports, we use AI to bring our main findings to the top of the report, so everything is really easy to read, in addition to the typical text that people are used to in a report. And so, we've spoken with clinics that the technicians have said to the doctor, like, hey, I know we're treating Max for heart failure, but the Radimal report came back and the bulleted thing right at the top says pneumonia. I think someone should, check to make sure we're treating this patient appropriately. And so in that way, it really empowers the staff to be part of the patient approach. And similarly, when it comes to talking to owners, when you're able to show that owner a report that has, somewhat layman terms at the top in bulleted format, you're able to say, hey, we think you should go see a cardiologist. As you can see on the report, the heart is big, there's congestive heart failure. Here's what we recommend as the next steps. And it really improves transparency and improves trust between the pet owner and the veterinarian, because everything is spelled out for them a little bit easier. And that's just an easily automated task with AI. This is enabling everyone to treat the patient quicker, to get the patient the next level care that they need quicker, and to spend less of their day trying to, track down the report. Is the report back? Let me get the vet to look at the report. What does all this mean? And so you're absolutely right. It's really about providing care at every level of the way through every member of the clinic and the owner. Because at the end of the day, we all want to not only provide better job satisfaction, but more importantly, better patient care, and improving that bond between the pet parent and their pet.
Is there a fear or something that you've seen in clinic? And Susan, I'd love your take on this as well. Of, as the information becomes more available, did Dr. Google get a degree, right? Like, are we seeing that becoming more of an issue where people are saying, well, I ran this through, some random thing that's none of us know where the data is sourced from or something like that. Have you come across that? And then Susan, I'm going to ask you the same question too.
So, I mean, it is incredibly important that you work with a reputable company. And, you know, because every company's black box, you know, what the AI is in that black box is a little bit different. And so it's important that you work with a reputable company that has transparency about how they train their AI and how they make their models. I think it's important to us at Radimal that the AI reports are going through the veterinarian. So it's not like someone at home who has a sick pet can just put their pet's radiographs in and get something back and then Google, you know, what is congestive heart failure. All of this is being funneled through the technicians, through the practice, through the veterinarian. And so for us specifically, I don't have that concern because there's going to be medical oversight every step of the way. And our saying at Radimal is only doctors make decisions. And so while, you know, I spoke about having the technician participate in patient care, ultimately it's going to go back to the doctor to make sure that that pet is getting the correct care.
Awesome. And then Susan, you've sort of, not to tell this whole story of like your whole business, but you guys kind of did go to the pet parent first, right? And now are taking that technology and empowering the veterinarians with it, right? Am I right in sort of understanding that's what Tably is trying to bring to the practices?
Yeah, for sure. So we, the pet owners, we just gave one result, right, which is happy, unhappy. So super, super high level. And then through that, you know, if you have an unhappy cat, you know, there's a symptom checker, and then it's like you need to go to a vet, right? Or all roads lead to a vet, especially for cats, anyhow, speaking. Mm-hmm. So we decided we'd talk with clinics and work with clinics. And what we found with clinics is they were wildly interested in this, especially when the cat leaves again. So this idea of remote patient monitoring with a cat is super, super powerful because we get it wrong at home. People tend to make assumptions about cats, and they're just, less domesticated than dogs. And so what we're seeing with clinics is that they're using it as a remote patient monitoring tool. So people are coming in suspecting there's something going on. We have a caveat in the remote patient monitoring that the veterinarian is always going to be smarter than us because we're AI. So we're trying to be as smart as a veterinarian, but we defer to the veterinarian always. And what's really interesting about AI is we have permission to be that way versus, let's say, if you were bringing a new drug to the market, you know, this is a life and death situation. What we're doing is really think of us like a compliance tool with a pet owner. And then for the clinics, it's a way for them to engage with that pet owner and that cat when they're not in the clinic. So our use cases, you know, older cats, you know, it's wildly successful for older cats or cats with chronic conditions. What some of the veterinarians and technicians are finding is that it keeps the pet owner away, which is actually what they want for those follow-up visits with the cat.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly powerful as a peace of mind tool for the clinic and the pet owner. And, one of the happiest surprises, I think, in this journey for me was the people that really love this tech. The veterinarians that are using it see the value clearly, but it's the technicians that are really loving this tech. And they love it. You know, one of them said, you know, I can come in and I have a cup of coffee and I look at all my cats at home because I can see the immediate assessments of my cats at home. Because, you know, quite often if you're sending a cat home, you're just praying that they're getting, you know, whatever you've given them for treatment and there's compliance. Quite often with cats, we don't know, it gets hard in terms of compliance. And so you're just hoping things worked out for that cat. They're not coming back in the next year, generally speaking. So we're really seeing a lot of power just in peace of mind with the technicians because they're the ones doing that front line with the pet owner.
So again, I mean, I think Susan's going to become you're going to co-host the podcast with me because you team me up.
I just like to talk to you.
But you hit on access to care. And the really interesting thing was last year at the Veterinary Innovation Summit, access to care was the topic, like AI is the topic this year. So Jen, because you were on the Vic board last year as well, when you guys looked at last year's access to care. Unfortunately, we haven't completely cured or solved all access to care. It's still going on. But how do you marry this movement now to talking about AI and still wanting to address access to care?
Yeah, I wish we had been able to solve the access to care issues in a year. Like, boom, wrap that up.
I know, right?
I know, darn it. But I do think that, I mean, lots of the things that we're hearing, if we make it very simple, AI will drive efficiency, drive down cost. And if we use it responsibly and we all participate in the use of it correctly, then it'll increase quality. That for sure is access to care. And whether it's helping more technicians be able to do more of the workload, reaching clinicians in sort of remote areas that might not have the support that they would love to have in more complex cases. I think a big piece of access to care is really making sure we're opening up to the full spectrum of care. I'm a specialist. I know I'm guilty of sort of that binary. You either with GP or you got referred because you have all this money, and there's a whole spectrum of care that we need to be making sure we're looking at, because it's about meeting the needs of the clients, and that absolutely is what AI will help us do. It's maybe a small example, but I think it was kind of a powerful one last year at this, on a panel where we were just starting to talk about AI. One of the panelists, a doctor, said that she had a pet had been diagnosed with diabetes, and there was a gentleman, the client in front of her, and she was trying to figure out how to explain it to this guy. And so she fed some key things into Chat GPT and said, can you explain diabetes in the use of basketball terminology to this guy, because he's a basketball fan. And so that's amazing, right? Like that's meeting the client where they are, that's improving access to care and compliance and the outcomes that kind of go with it. So I think there's a lot of interaction.
That's cool. So for people that maybe speak a different language besides basketball, I know it's it's the second most common spoken language in the world.
Yes.
But Yanik, what is COVET doing around that side of it? Like the language support, the increase of access to care, especially, we've got an international panel, right? How is that addressing what's going on? And let's just hit on just the US or even in Canada, North America as well.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the main things that Jennifer mentioned there in terms of more efficiency, see more patients, those are kind of obvious, but there's a lot of other things that are really great here. First of all, we as a platform, we try to have templates that are made for equine vets, for specialty vets, so there's that access of, okay, let's really try and bring this technology not just to GPs, let's really try to bring them to all areas of veterinary care. For us, that's a super important part of our mission. And as you were mentioning, communication is a big one. For instance, in Canada, we have a big number of our customers there are veterinarians that have an immigration background. Maybe they're coming from India, from other countries, and they're using our technology, and it actually helps them produce higher, quality records. They're extremely happy with this. It allows them to see patients in other languages too, because our technology can actually transcribe a consultation that's happening in Hindu or in Mandarin, and it can still produce a record in English at the end. And so these are things that previously used to be pretty much impossible for a doctor to handle, taking notes in one language and then going and write the records in another language. We automate that for them. So they can have their different consultations in different languages during the day, and it produces high quality records in English as they're required to do at the end of the day. And so those are the small things where we believe it's a really big impact on the day-to-day of these people, and it allows them to provide more care. So that's a big, we think that's a big impact. And as we go international and try to serve more markets, that intercommunication kind of language aspect is definitely a big part of it.
That's cool. And I think the thing that's additionally neat about that, I think about having gone to the human doctor, right? I remember when my wife and I were having one of our daughters, there was a wall and it said, if you speak another language, and it was in all the other, it was like, call this number and we'll have a translator get on the phone. And I remember someone next to me needed to use a translator, and they were sitting there for a while, not getting checked in, not going through the flow. And this was, not very long ago. And it's kind of wild to think about the opportunity that you could actually open the doors to more people, and more people can come into the clinic. They're not having to look for, a language specific practice, and the speed at which those generations into different languages is incredibly fast as well. So it's not record something, send it off, have someone read it, translate it, send it back. You're actually doing something much more direct there. So that's incredible. And then when we also think about access to care, it continues to grow, right? What the umbrella of access to care means. There's the physical ability to get care. There's the financial ability to get care. There's the level or gold standard or spectrum of care, or however people want to categorize that. And actually, I'm going to go to Allan. Andrew, take this one off. Put your feet up. Allan, when you are thinking about how the utilization of not just the AI component of Rimal, but also the teleconsultancy side of it, how is that broadening the spectrum of care or the availability of care from what you guys have seen?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. It's a great question of just, how is this expanding care? I'm going to go to one of my favorite stories, which is we met a couple of vet techs, I think at VMX in the past year, and they came up to us and they said, "Oh, we love using Radimal." We were like, "Oh, thank you. That's amazing." And they were like, "Yeah, we like it so much more than what we were using before." And we said, "Oh, just out of curiosity, would you tell us what you were using before?" And they kind of looked at each other and they said, "You know what? We don't know what we were using before because nobody knew how to use that." And so I think that, many people have mentioned here, including Susan, ease of use is just such a huge feature of all AI, right? Because if you can take the same thing but make it 10 times easier to use, right? It's not just that you're going to save somebody 30 minutes or an hour out of their day, or you're just going to increase efficiency. What it means is that a patient might go to radiology where before they just wouldn't have been able to, or if they go to radiology, then you're going to have that compliance from the owner that you wouldn't have had before, right? And so this ease of use, this access to care, I think has a very meaningful, very measurable, impact on what's happening in terms of giving this care to everybody. And I think that the AI is sort of just the start. It's just sort of the just makes it easier to get involved in having, like you're saying, the actual specialist providing the care. And then the other thing that really comes to mind, and Andrew touched on this a little bit earlier, is that we want our specialists operating at the highest level all of the time, right? And so if we can take some of the more cases where there really doesn't need to be medical attention, but maybe somebody in the clinic would have normally said, "Oh, well, I really want to get this read. I really want to get this read." Well, if we can use AI and this tooling to help make sure that those people have answers quickly, and help Andrew and people like him to have most of their time focused on the most important patients, well, then there's just all these ways that we're really opening up care, and when they work together, the impact is multiplicative, right? Like we're talking about like a drastic expansion in how much care we're able to provide with the same number of people, with the same technologies of, it's still radiology. It's just happening on such a larger scale.
Interesting. That's neat. And so I'm going to do what I promised I wouldn't do as a panelist, but go down the list, right? But what I want to throw down a challenge to anyone listening, anyone watching. And I think that everyone should have an AI tool of some sort implemented in their practice or in their business in the next 30 days. That's my challenge to everyone. And so I'm going to take it to Susan first. Susan, what are things that people could do today to put that into an action plan for them?
So we have a manual tool now. Actually, we've just updated our product. So if you go to sylvester.ai, it should go live tomorrow. So I would say by Friday. You can go and if you're a pet owner or anybody, you can buy a scan package and see how the technology works. For it to be integrated into a clinic where we're taking payment and then giving part of the payment back to clinic, we can have that set up within a week. So very, very easy. I think the bigger challenge here in terms of adding AI is how does it flow in your protocol? And when do you offer this technology? And we're recommending, obviously, recommend it to everybody. We'll follow up with the payment and finance with the pet owner, but recommend it to them. And then what we see is a follow-on effect with the clinic. So clinics are using this after procedures and before procedures, this technology as well. So it's a very easy integration. The bigger challenge is remembering to use it. And right now, because it's a manual engagement, but it's very, very easy. I just want to, while I have a minute, I want to go back to something Allan mentioned about simplicity. And I think we tend to underestimate, because this is such a talented technical field, and veterinarians really have a rigorous validation to what they do, that we tend to overcomplicate in areas where we probably don't need to. And so when you think about AI and that simplification, don't underestimate companies that have been built on that and the power of that. And I'm going to go back to Apple versus Microsoft. Because something seems simple, that it's like doesn't seem like it's a big deal. If your end user is wanting that, or if it helps a technician, then I really would encourage you to embrace it, because any one of the tools that you've heard about today and many, many more, if it helps one person in your clinic feel better about their job today, then you have actually, climbed Mount Everest. It's really, really hard. You've got a lot of demand. There isn't really a need to innovate in clinics other than burnout, real life human problems. And so because we have plenty of pets that we can see. And so I just really want to emphasize how valuable simplicity is rather than overcomplicating. So sorry, I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent, but
it's okay. I'm going to just mute you for the rest of the talk.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So you brought up Apple, so I'm going to throw to our former Apple genius, not an actual Apple genius, because he didn't work at the Apple bar, but he's a genius that worked at Apple. Yanik, how do people put this in 30 days? What do they need to do to have an AI tool in practice in 30 days?
Yeah, we have this tagline we really like, which is small, simple, and now. Break it down. Don't try to think you need to implement this massive AI tool that everybody in your clinics need to use from day one. Start small, start simple, and start doing it now. Don't push it back to the next board meeting you have in 6 months to try to implement an AI strategy. Like, try implementing these tools. With COVID, it's very simple. You can sign up for free. There's a 14-day trial, no credit card, no commitment. And it works with your existing workflow. So you just bring it into the consultation room. You don't need to change the way you provide care. It listens to the consultation as is, and it provides a medical record at the end. So it's very easy to just bring it in and start trying it. If that's even too much of a step, start doing some role playing, with maybe a colleague. Try it out, in your clinic. But really, what I would encourage people to do is, give it a try. Whenever you hit a hurdle, if you think something is too complicated, go a bit smaller and try it in a different setup. But you'll see that the beauty of these tools, and as Susan was saying, we've built them in ways that are so simple to get started with, that the barrier to entry is very low. You don't need big training. You don't need to replace your entire Pims system. A lot of people think about that when they think about new technology, but that's really not the case here. These tools work on top of your existing stack. It's very little training, very little overhead. So you can simply get started right away tomorrow. Maybe find one of your vets that's really enthusiastic about technology and get them to try it out first, right? They'll convince other people in the clinic after. So make it simple, make it actionable. But what I would really recommend is just to start trying things out tomorrow, because it's going to be a journey. But the sooner you start, the more, the faster you'll see effects that are going to benefit everybody that you work with.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, you're batting cleanup for us here. How can people put this into their clinic? What do they need to do to have that? And that was baseball language, not basketball language. Did I put that
I'm more of a hockey player myself, but I think I
Okay,
know what you mean.
you're behind the red line.
That's right.
I don't watch hockey. I don't know.
So if you go to radimal.ai, our platform hooks up to an existing X-ray machine. So anyone who has an X-ray machine in their clinic can hook up to Radimal. All the DICOM information is there. If you're tech savvy, it's almost 2:00. You could have an account by 2:05, 2:06. Your cases can automatically run through with AI. It's a free trial. There's never any contract. And so it's incredibly easy to set up. If you are not as tech savvy, you can schedule an appointment and we will help set up your X-ray machine for you. Like Yanik mentioned, you don't need to drastically change anything. Just let your cases flow through the Radimal platform. Take a look at the AI findings, see how they match up to what you were thinking or how your current radiology provider reads cases, and just kind of get a feel for what it's like to use the AI. There's a place on our website to ask questions, like a chat feature that's staffed by live people. So if you hit any hiccups, we're there to help. But I would definitely encourage people to try it. And even if it's one case a day, the more you use these technologies, the more that you'll feel more comfortable with them and begin to understand the ways that they work. And so I absolutely echo everything that everyone had mentioned, that I know AI can feel a little bit scary, but Radimal operates on top of any existing radiology platforms that you use. It doesn't need to replace anything. It's free, it's easy to set up, and definitely give it a try.
Awesome. All right. Well, so I have some questions from the audience. So I'm going to go through those, and then if we have time, I have one final wrap-up question for you. But Music City Pet Internal Medicine asked for Yanik, does Covet offer an abdominal ultrasound template?
Yes, we actually do have that exact template. So sign up, check it out. It'll be part of the standard list of templates you find as soon as you sign up. And we have that specific use case. It has been built with veterinarians we have on staff. We work with DVMs. We work with specialists that help us really build these templates so they work perfectly for the use case. So we'd love your feedback on it.
Okay. And now Doug Brooks asked a question, which I know where Doug is going with this one. And I know you, Doug, so I know where to come for this question. But do any of these AI tools connect to Pims to help improve clinic workflows? Susan, we've obviously hit on the Pims aspect. That's kind of the new thing that you guys are bringing out, right?
Yes. Well, we are an embeddable tool. So we can work into any flow that a clinic has. We're working through that right now. There's so many to pick from, right? So we're picking our main ones. But think of us like an embeddable tool that can fit into workflow. Our vision, though, is to be deeply connected to Pims, because we are another piece of information about the health of that pet. And so again, right, we're not trying to be linear. We want to see the health of that pet over time. And so visual computer vision recognition at home and in the clinic it's paramount to being connected to Pims.
Awesome. Yanik?
Yeah, so we're actively working on deeper integrations. Right now in the workflow, we have very easy workflow set up for you to export your records into the Pims. There's Chrome extensions, different export centers that help really automate that flow. I'll say this in general. I know in this industry, there's a very deep focus on, is this tool integrated with the Pims? And it's obviously a very valid question. But I would also encourage people to not necessarily be stuck on that one aspect when a tool isn't directly integrated with your Pims, because if we look at the value we provide to our end users, 98% of that value happens in the first part. And obviously being able to automate the last mile is important, and it's something that we all want to achieve, but the real value lies in the rest of it. So I would really encourage people to look past that sometimes to make sure that they still give it a try. And in time, these tools will be integrated, but there's a lot of challenges in this industry. There's thousands of PIM systems out there, so it takes time to really get that full integration. So yeah, that's kind of my quick comment on that one.
Andrew?
Thanks. Similar to Susan, yes, we have Pims integration. Like Yanik mentioned, there's a million of them out there, and so as we've been working with clinics, we've just been continuing to add to our Pims integration. We absolutely understand that it just increases ease of use when radiology reports or internal medicine consultations go directly back into the electronic medical record. And so absolutely, we have clinics who use the integration, and we also have, the platform is a standalone feature as well. And so we have people who use it both ways.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Was a great question, Doug, and I'm just giving you a hard time as usual. But what I think was kind of interesting maybe is the idea of that 30-day challenge, right? That I'm throwing out there. Sometimes that integration might be the barrier to seeing even trying, right? It's what keeps me from getting off the couch and going to the gym, right? It's like, let's remove one hurdle. Let's maybe look at a step and go, okay, let's all try an AI tool. Let's all do something. Let's take, do some feline scoring. Let's do an AI report. Let's do, voice dictation. Let's look through all of these things. And then the neat thing is, coming from the Pims world, as you all grow, the pressure falls on the Pims in a lot of ways too. So there is this opportunity to shift it both ways. There was a great question that I will probably be close to my last one, but I wanted to make sure that I get this. So Dr. Hauser asked or said, veterinarians tend to be price sensitive. What needs to happen as an industry to help veterinarians see the ROI in adopting AI-driven tools? Who wants to jump in on that? Susan?
No, I already answered, Wendy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I'd like to hear from the others that are closer to the record keeping, because ours is a clear benefit to the pet owner. And so we have that pipeline. I'd love to hear from the others.
Yeah, I mean, on our end, really, it's helping the veterinarians see the time savings that they have directly, showing their impact on their life. Speaking about ROI for a clinic doesn't necessarily directly impact the veterinarian and their day-to-day. So the best thing for us is getting them to just try it out. Frankly, if you look at the way we see the stats, people that use our free trial, if they actually interact with the platform a bit, there's an extremely high conversion rate, because end of the day, they just see the impact that they're able to go back home at night to go have dinner with their family. And we have some more data-driven customers that, we have these testimonials people send us. They compute that they kind of pay back their yearly plan within a couple of weeks, just because of the amount of patients they're able to see extra when they actually go look at the numbers, right? But I think for us, really, it's just, let's show the value to the people in using the platform. Let's make it very easy for people to try it out. So, remove that barrier to entry. It kind of goes back to the 30-day challenge that Ryan is making. Let's just make it easy for them to try it out. And we want to make it so that they understand themselves. They don't even need numbers. It's just they understand that this is going to help them, and there's kind of a natural ROI there. And for clinics and groups, we can really go into more data and show to them, how big the impact is. But I think both of these elements are important.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to answer my own question, or it's Dr. Hauser's question, so I can answer it. But I think there's the ROI on happiness and ability to focus on what you're actually doing in clinic. You can run everything through and you can increase average check transaction by reducing an appointment by 3 minutes and seeing an extra patient you can do the math. There's a way to make that math work on any sort of project or any topic that you're working on. But I think letting people focus on what they actually went to school for, what, they were 3 years old and, doing an exam on their teddy bear, the things that they got excited about for their life is probably where I would see a big piece of that ROI. I've got just a very short time here, but what I wanted to do was, first off, thank all of you for joining us. This was fantastic. And as I'm thinking of this as our pre-show, I'm going to do it and throw it over to Jen as well. There's an incredible talk that's happening at the conference. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you sign up and join us in Kansas City. But there's going to be a talk on Thursday at 10:30 a.m., which is a look at veterinary practices of 2034 and how AI will transform it. So I'm setting my calendar, not for now, but also for 2034 to see if everyone was right. But Jen, why don't you close us out with some plugs about what people should be doing to join us at VIS?
Yes, thank you. Because it's not just for that session. You should come for the whole thing. And there's no reason not to come to Kansas City. There's so much going on because it's VPP, Veterinary Innovation Summit, Fetch, Animal Health Corridor. It's all happening in Kansas City. But for Veterinary Innovation Summit, there's still time to sign up. You can show up and sign up. And then we kick off Wednesday, the 21st with the evening reception and a keynote speaker. And then all day Thursday, partial day Friday. lots of great keynote speakers. It's a boutique event for those who haven't been. We're looking at a little over 300 people, and I think that really makes for truly like next level conversations and networking for an event that size. We've got a pitch contest. Rimal is one of the participants in the pitch contest. You can vote for Everyday Innovations, where we just took fun little hacks and ideas from practices that people are using on a daily basis. We've got, instead of breakouts this year, we're kind of lumping main stage, that we're bringing topics together to make sure we're having really good sort of provocative conversations. So please come to Veterinary Innovation Summit. And thank you, Ryan, for letting me basically show up on this podcast to shamelessly plug this.
Well, thank you for having us. Thank you for being our host for this. And again, for everyone that joined, thank you for watching and listening. And for all of our panelists, thank you for taking the time for joining us. And we will see you all in Kansas City.